On episode 20 of our podcast today, I bring on Evan, a NetSuite customer, and we're actually just going to talk about something a little bit different in the thought leadership space about ethical entrepreneurship and just our perspective about what it's like managing employees and how to create a business that is going to be best for the employees and then ultimately be able to create more profit. And we just have a general conversation about this topic that I think that you'll enjoy some of the conversation and dialogue between the two of us. I was really curious about your perspective, and you and I have talked a little bit about this just real briefly in the past on ethical entrepreneurship, and it's something that I think a lot about, and I'm sure that you do as well. But it's a very broad topic, and I wanted to know your perspective and just kind of talk out loud what this topic means for different people in different industries. I mean, you're in the product space, I'm in the services space, and I bet there's different perspectives on ethical entrepreneurship, even in different industries. And I anticipate there to be. I'm curious to pick
Yeah.
your brain on what you think of ethical entrepreneurship. How do you think of it?
I mean, I don't exactly think of I'm sure every person's definition of ethical entrepreneurship is different as well. But for me, I believe that ethical entrepreneurship is the pursuit of not only a good product and a good service, but also treating your employees well, whether it's your employees, your partners, or whoever, treating them well, and that just long-term goodwill and trust and, well, treating them like people will lead to a healthier, more sustainable business. I mean, you're seeing so many things in the news where companies like Amazon, people are having to pee in water bottles because they don't they have a schedule that's so harsh where they're penalized if they uh don't hit their quotas. It's just hearing people who are underpaid, not taken care of, just completely exploited, that it's just not sustainable for long-term business. And then you also have situations of where a company comes in, like a angel investor, they come in, take over the company and do changes for short-term gain, but long-term loss. I mean, look at companies like Southwest, for example. I mean, what are some other companies where they're having the issues where they have a company come in, they reduce service, they reduce quality, um, they come in, they strip everything, and then they sell, and then they get out, and the company is just left in shambles after they leave, after they're kinda done with what they need to do. It's just ethical entrepreneurship is just the idea that, of sustainable, healthy, growth and business management leads to a healthier, stronger company. That's
Yeah.
my definition of ethical entrepreneurship.
Yeah, I think that's like a really good, and I think it encompasses most of the areas that I think about myself. And I think that there are some companies who, like you think about Tom's, the shoe company, for instance, they probably have a different way. They're thinking more about, okay, how can you help the society around you more than just your employees? I think there's like your employee and your own business growth and treating them really well, and then there's what about socially what you can do for people around you? Do something with poverty, do something with the environment. And there's like that other phase that although I have light exposure to, I think that probably happens more in the product space when you're dealing with sourcing of products and how are
Mhm,
you going to source your products. There's some decisions, especially in like the apparel space,
mhm.
but I myself am mostly thinking about how do I create a really good culture and a good environment for employees. And although I'm a business leader, I'm not an owner, but I do think about this quite a bit. And then how do I create that culture? How do I foster that healthy relationships where you can
Yeah.
treat people very well?
Yeah, that's exactly it, and I would say that the people who have most inspired me are honestly my parents. I mean, as I told you, my father started the business in 1996, and, they've practiced and instilled the idea of, well, treating your employees like people. And, I mean, it's common sense. but you don't see it very often in the scheme of these larger businesses where, it comes down to as they grow, they cut costs, they, very corporatized things where you're not Caleb, you're not Evan, you're just a number employee, 5628 kind of thing. And like, oh, sorry, someone passed in your family. Well, you got to come in today because you're on the schedule. It's like, no, treat them like humans. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just baffling. Just how how good common decency goes in building a healthy business internally, just for company culture and just having your employees know that they can trust you. Um,
Yeah, I
yeah.
think that I've learned a lot from being a parent with and leading and being in a business, helping treat other people's very well. I've learned probably the most out of anything by being a dad because I not only are you getting that family values, but when you're raising a child, you are seeing pure emotions. They're not at the age of reason yet. Whereas adults, you have age of reason, and you're able to be reasoned with. But they also have those raw emotions. And the more I've been a father, the more I've realized, oh, like adults are still children, but also can have reason on top of that. Those same raw emotions still exist, even if they don't know how to identify them. And if I were to think about what are the areas that I've seen my own growth in is just paying more attention to people's feelings and their emotions
Mhm.
and how to not ignore them and to plow through them just to like get what I want, but to address them, hear them, and they're really oftentimes the same. Some of the same techniques I use with my child are the same one I use with others, not in like a demeaning way, but just of like paying attention to those raw emotions. And
Yeah.
that's been a foundational element to treating people really well, and for
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah, and not only is it just, the basics of being a decent human being, it also helps just employees, just the company in general, just know that they're with the company, not on their own against the company. So like let me give you an example. I had an employee, and their work was suffering a little bit. And this is unusual. They had a year of solid work and then suddenly went downhill a little bit. Instead of me calling them and saying, "Hey, can I curse? Am I allowed to curse?" you know, get your stuff together. It's just, "Hey, this is unusual. What's going on?" And I learned that they're just going through some personal life stuff. And I'm like, I understand if you need to take some time, that's fine. Take some time. But, I just want to let you know, I'm seeing your work suffer a little bit, and that's unlike you. And they're like, "No, I understand." And it was uh, just listening to someone rather than coming in with accusations helps foster so much better goodwill and a healthier company culture where people want to work here. I mean, our longest working employee is our warehouse manager. He's been here for, I think, 27 years now. And our most recent warehouse hire has been here for almost 3 years now. A warehouse associate. I mean, in a large corporate world, 3 years is ancient for a warehouse associate. Usually, they just cycle in, every few months. They use them and abuse them and then dispose of them. It's just it's not healthy for a company to operate that long term.
Is there
And
certain things though that help contribute to that? Like any certain type of events, are there like personal touch points that you're doing that help contribute to that?
as in,
Like when you're having more frequent meetings, are they able to more speak to everybody and they feel like they're mostly on the same level? And I've noticed that it is easier to treat someone they or for people to feel like they're on the same level because if there's not as many employees, they have a line of communication open to everybody and they all feel part of a team. Is there something done
yeah.
intentionally or is it just really easy just to acknowledge people's presence on a daily basis?
I mean, we work remotely. Our entire office is remote. Um, what I think we do is even though we, are a, I guess, small company, we do big business for our size. But we really emphasize just a work-life balance. It's like if someone takes vacation, I want to respect that vacation. The only person I expect to work on vacation is me. I mean, because I'm CEO, I run the company. It's kind of just a part of the job. But I know that I've built my team well enough that I can take a vacation and do minimal work because my team is talented enough to operate on their own without me, and because I've trained them well enough to do that, and they are quality enough to be able to do that. Um, and so I can let them do what they need to do without the micromanagement that might be instilled if you have an employee who just isn't as invested because they're treated terribly. Not only is it common human decency to treat employees well, it's just it's more effective for the company because they don't feel like they are their voice is suppressed and they can speak to us. Um, yes, we're a smaller company, and that's a lot easier to do when there's very much a face to the name, more so than a larger company. But with a larger company, I feel like a lot of this also, this unethical entrepreneurship has to really do with just maximizing profit. Now, of course, as a business, you're expected to maximize profit. Um, but oftentimes that this profit maximization is pursued in an unsustainable rate where just the business is not run ethically for long-term sustainable growth. I mean, you can probably afford to reduce profit by 10% if your company will be healthier in 10 years. I mean, look at, for example, Costco, right? I think of Costco as kind of an ideal term of an ethically run company where their employees are treated right. It's a very, sought after position. Even a warehouse associate gets paid very well. Um, Advancements and benefits and everything like that. It's a very sought after place to work, comparatively to another place, which could be larger and they cycle through employees every month or year, where they're just there to be there and to get to the next position. Um, that is how I believe ethical entrepreneurship, or what it is just treating your employees and your customers right for long-term sustainable growth. That
What
is what I
about
think it is.
policies? Whenever you're starting to implement policies, as you grow as a company, you have to create. Oftentimes, you're thinking about, okay, I have a responsibility to all these other employees, so I have to do what's best for the average person.
Mhm,
When you're creating policies, oftentimes, and you can't have exceptions for every little thing that could possibly exist. And I think that's the greatest challenge in growing as an organization is creating policies that is best for the average person, not just an idealistic way, but with with the person in mind too. Like what is going to be best for them, and that's a
mhm.
bit subjective. Um, because somebody else is what's deciding. In a sense, you're
Yeah.
deciding what's best for someone, or what's best for the average person within the
Mhm.
organization. And that can be, I found that to be a tricky aspect in creating policies.
Yeah. I mean, uh, the I think with anything in this world, nothing is completely black and white. Um, I mean, if someone slacks and they make a mistake, um, you have to consider it in the scheme of that person's work history, depending on the severity of the mistake and the consistency of the mistake. I always believe that something is only a mistake if it happens twice. I mean, I'm sure in your industry, someone might have accidentally dropped the database, right? And first off,
Or
why did
forgot
they have the
to
ability to do that?
merge a
Yeah,
branch or something, you know?
yeah. Or something catastrophic happens. Then
Oh
you
yeah.
have to look at why did this happen? How do we avoid it in the future? And will this person do it again? Because if you make like a $10,000 mistake, I'm pretty sure that person will be vigilant to not make that $10,000 mistake again because you can fire them, hire someone new, and they didn't already learn that lesson. I mean, mistakes happen. It just depends on the severity of it and how consistent it is.
Yeah, I think when it comes to policies, though, too, it's always good to do postmortems whenever something doesn't go well. When you're thinking about policies, though, or when I'm thinking about them too, and trying to think about the average person, I'm always making sure that leadership knows, or the different levels of leadership knows that they have some amount of authority to make exceptions or to use reason for that particular circumstance. Because
Hmm.
I need to be able to make sure that each of the levels, all the way down and all the way up, each one of them are able to do sound business making decisions. And
Hmm.
even just those light interactions on maybe less important policies are areas where they can get practice on making good business decisions on behalf of a business. So I think actually policies are a great way to not enforce them to the T, where like it has to be so strict, but to allow for one-off scenarios. I'll give you an example. My father-in-law worked at a bank for many, many years, always on time, every single day. They would clock in every single day. And one time he forgot to clock in, because he went to go get his coffee and then was talking with his boss for 10 minutes at the start of the day, and then realized, oh, I forgot to clock in, so clocked in. So although he got there on time, what was actually in the machine, or probably at that point it was just the paper clock ins,
Hmm.
what was there was that he was late because that's where it clocked in. And so he got reprimanded a little bit and got written up for being late to work. And in his mind is like, hey, manager, I was literally talking with you for the first 10 minutes. Why are you doing
Yeah.
that? And that's incredibly frustrating, and an example of what I would say is an unethical practice, that you do need to allow those managers to have reason and to practice reasonable execution of a policy.
Yeah, I completely agree. Because if you have someone and they do everything they can to be a good employee, and then the company comes back and reprimands them in an unfair way, that employee will be disheartened. And, again, it's not only about, they are your employees. So just that they're human as well. And that's where I feel like a lot of these modern day issues are coming up, is just not treating employees like humans in the pursuit of pure profit. Like I said, we're a company. Profit is, of course, what we're after. But you can probably sacrifice a little bit of that for improvements of quality of life, right? I mean, I can afford to be a little bit less wealthy if I got there in a way where I feel good about it, right?
Yeah, you're willing to shave off a few percentage of your profit margin if you're able to have a very happy employee base. Well worth it.
Of course. And I firmly believe that having a happy employee base will lead to more profit.
Over
I
time,
mean,
yeah.
over time, you're going to have people who are invested in the company because they want to work there. And then in the same vein, treating your customers right. Of course, that kind of goes without saying. Um, but you kind of see it more often than not, where customers are kind of just treated like a number. Um, there's really no, you know, I guess, personal interaction anymore. I especially see that with our very large competitors. Uh, you're not, you know, XYZ, you are customer 1, 2, 3. How do we squeeze as much money out of you, kind of thing. Um, and it doesn't garner that customer loyalty either, where the customer might feel like they're taken advantage of, and they might not want to come back, in the similar way of how an employee might feel like they're being taken advantage of, and they might not want to stay there, or they might not try as hard. And so when I speak of ethical entrepreneurship, it's just the idea that by treating people better, you can make a healthier, sustainable company in the long term, and it will be a little bit less profitable or even net neutral based off of just customer and employee loyalty because you treat them right.
Yeah. I agree, and I think that there are very many business reasons to do it too. Even if you're not just thinking about whether it's the right thing to do, you can you can make a lot of math decisions too. Like when you said that you'd be more profitable, that will lead to more profits. I think it happens in a few ways. Our industry, it's like anywhere from 20 to $50,000 the cost of business to train someone in a role. Like very
Mhm.
high cost of business. So any turnover is just like you lose all your profit margin with any
Yeah.
turnover. And it's very challenging. And I like that is in our industry in the services space, like it's the talent of the individual people that you have to train and just make them take levels up and not it's continuous training, honestly. It doesn't really stop because it's high technical field. And by not having good retention rates with employees, you're gonna lose profit margins very quickly. So
Yeah.
it's definitely incentivizing to make sure that you take care of
Mhm.
employees, at
Yeah,
least in our
and
space.
in the same kind of vein, with our, warehouse employees, I would say we have the best warehouse, in the industry of relative size to us. Um, Honestly, as you get larger, they just get worse and worse because it's huge logistical and human resource issues, but I'm not gonna get into that. But with our, warehouse, associates, um, they are paid above market rate, and they work a 4-day work week, which is highly coveted. I mean, we're just we moved to that during COVID and then didn't go back. They're getting the same, amount of work done. They lose 4 hours on the total work week, but they're working more efficiently, they're happier, they love the schedule. We're able to hire more competitive, candidates because of not only do we pay above market rate, we also have a 4-day work week.
Wow.
At
That's
least
really interesting. When I was working
yeah.
in the manufacturing space, it was 6 day weeks.
Yeah.
It was the opposite.
It Yeah. So, I mean, Fridays, we see the least amount of orders, for example. It's typically slow on Fridays. Typically, the orders are placed mostly on, like, Mondays or Tuesdays as people come in and get prepared for what they need to do, over the week. And considering commute times, considering that, the benefits of the remote employees, so it's being able to work remotely. Now, our remote employees work, Monday to Friday, of course, a typical 40-hour work week. Um, but our on-site people have the benefit of a 4-day work week. Um, like I said, I firmly believe in good benefits, good pay, gives you good employees, and just leads to better business and more revenue because you have people who are actually invested in the health of the company.
What about the fostering of the culture beyond that too? Because those are good points, and I think that there's probably more going on there. Do you foster a culture where people can be playful and joke
Yeah, of
around?
course. I send memes sometimes
Yeah.
to my employees. Just some of them are memes that are specific to the situation we're dealing with. Sometimes in case of, like, let's say, uh, a vendor that's being difficult. um, uh, just little inside jokes. I mean, there's a time and a place for corporate talk, right? If you're on with an important customer, yeah, you don't want to be sending memes. Um, but if you're just talking with someone about, some difficult situation that's happening, it can really lighten the mood. And one thing that I really foster, in our business is that just because we are doing it this way doesn't mean it's the best way. If you can come up with a better way, I'm happy to hear it. I'm always of the opinion that, our processes are constantly evolving. It's like a living document, essentially. Um, when I first came on board, I was told, "Here's how we do this." And I looked at it and I said, "Why?" And they said, "That's just how we've always done it." I understand, but why? And so then I looked into it and figured out that it wasn't the best way to do it. And then I changed it, looked at it again, changed it more, and now it's a highly efficient process. Um, and I want to foster that same kind of, well, innovation and growth at a company called Medical Innovations. You kind of want to foster that innovation,
Mhm.
not accepting things for what they are, but taking a look at it and making things better. And
Yeah.
so I always look for feedback from my employees on how we can make a process better. Because if everything stems from a single person, that is not healthy for a company to be reliant solely around a single person. The
It
company needs
sounds
to be able
like,
to.
though, that you allow for everybody to have a voice and you constantly remind them of that voice that they can have to share creative ideas to make things better. And I wouldn't underestimate the value of being able to be playful. I don't know what is a better word to describe it other than playful. Playful in the professional space in a fun way. I think it
I think
really
relaxed
helps.
is more the term.
Yeah,
Like,
relaxed.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But with being able to joke, and it makes it be such a better place. And
Mhm,
if you don't have that, I would argue that the pay and benefits only go so far. I think that more of a relaxed environment where you can work hard, get the job done, but to be fun, but have good people that are of high character that you work around, probably even plays a higher factor than the paying above market value and benefits. I think all of them combined, though,
mhm.
create a very good ethical place to work.
Yeah, and just being able to feel like you said, being able to have a voice. I have a friend who works for a large company, and, he has a boss that isn't very pleasant. And, he came up with this great idea. He did it, he got it approved, and then brought it forward, keeping his boss, in the process every step of the way, and then was reprimanded for it because he, went over their head. And what do you think that's going to do to his motivation in the future? He's not going to do that, and the source of ideas cannot always stem from the top.
In fact, I would
You can
argue that
only
they
do so
shouldn't.
much. Exactly, they shouldn't, because they're not in the field. They're not doing things,
Yeah.
constantly. When I talk to our warehouse, I come in, I take a look at things, and I ask, "How's everything going? Is there anything that needs to be done? What are you seeing?" And we got some great ideas. They're like, "Hey, these shelves here aren't really doing anything, and we could really use the space for receiving. Can we move these shelves?" Yeah, sure. I mean, if that's how you would better optimize the space, sure. I wouldn't have known that that would be a better way to do it because I'm not in there packing boxes all the time. I used to be doing that in high school, but now I don't. And so I need someone like them to be able to tell me that this is the better way.
And if you're reprimanding someone from making decisions and just going to execute it, it'll remove the ability for them to not only think of the ideas, but and to have the freedom to be creative and to think, but go through iterations of experience on implementing something and being that go-getter. And then you not only suppress the creative ideas, you suppress the experience they gain in implementing ideas,
Mhm,
which then that you becomes where everything that requires improvements then will only rely on you versus being able to start delegating that over time where they're gaining that experience of making micro decisions and even the ability to make bigger decisions. I've
mhm.
My favorite part of my job from the very beginning has been that I feel basically zero red tape.
Yeah.
I have an idea and I just go do it. I love that. That's my
Yeah,
favorite part. And it compounds.
yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I I don't really think I can work in a massively corporate environment based off of my work history. I have always had the freedom to pursue what needs to be done. And I do not think I can deal with a large corporate company's bureaucracy at this point. Um, I mean, like I said, our company is called Medical Innovations. We're not going to stay stagnant. If you stay stagnant, you die. And so we're going to always be constantly reiterating. We're going to be doing A and B testing. We're going to be trying new things. Um, because if we don't, in today's environment, you're going to die. It's just the fact of life. Well,
Yeah.
fact of business, I guess.
Also life, death is
Yeah.
inevitable too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really like it. I think these are great ideas to just constantly explore, keep top of mind, and I'm always thinking about, okay, how do I do things even better for the employee within the means that we have? And even by having conversations like this, bringing it top of mind for us when we're discussing it, I like hearing your thoughts. And most of the things that you've been talking about are things that have been on my mind a lot too. And it's good just to reinforce it by having a
Mhm.
discussion. So thanks for just
Yeah.
having a little bit of dialogue back and forth and sharing your perspective. And
Mhm.
I love what you're doing there at Medical Innovations. And I think that you'll continue to thrive there too, doing what you're doing.
Thank thank you. And I wanna wrap it up kind of to saying something, is that do you want your business to be a flash in the pan, or do you want it to leave a legacy lasting for years to come? And I think by pursuing ethical entrepreneurship is the way for that to happen.
Yeah. Well said. Legacy. Leave
Exactly.
a legacy. Awesome. Well, thanks, Evan. I appreciate you coming back on again, just talk through ethical entrepreneurship. And it was fun just chatting again. Appreciate it.